Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me today for our session on strategic marketing on a shoestring budget. My name is Kristy. I'm a presenter and an advisor for Business Station as part of the Commonwealth Government's Digital Solutions Program, which the webinar is presented to you today on behalf of. Now, the webinar that we're going to go through, being strategic marketing, is quite comprehensive. It's only an hour, so we've got a lot to get through in that hour, but a lot of it will lead into some of our other webinars and other programs and information that you can source through the Digital Solutions Program, so do keep that in mind. It is designed to be interactive, so please feel free to ask questions at any time. Just pop them into the chat functionality and I'll see them pop up and I will answer them as I can. I'll also stay on for a few minutes at the end and answer any questions that you may have as well. Now, in terms of specifically what we're going to go through today, we are going to look at the components in developing a marketing strategy and a marketing plan. We'll talk a little bit about the financial benefits of being strategic. We'll go through a few low-cost marketing tactics, and then we'll talk about measuring and controlling those as well to make sure that you're producing sales and spending your money effectively. So like I said, the basis of it is strategy, and then we'll go into some specific tactics as well. But before we do start to get into the strategic side of things, I thought it would be good to start off by defining marketing. And what it actually is anticipating the needs and wants of targeted customers and managing that process through which those needs and wants are satisfied. But in doing so, you have to do it profitably. Now, a key component of the strategic side of things is being targeted. You have to know exactly who you're selling to. You have to know their specific needs and wants, and therefore you will be able to provide them exactly what they want and provide it where and how they want it. So one of the key elements of today's webinar is looking at the theory that successful marketing doesn't have to cost your small business significantly, but you really do have to know the results of what you're doing as well to make sure that you're spending money in the right areas and you do have that profitability component in mind. Now, from a strategic perspective, this is sort of where the strategic planning comes into it. Now, a lot of small business owners, I find they'll create a business plan, perhaps when you start up, even to source funding, something like that. And then the day-to-day running of the business happens. A lot of time tends to go by before you refer back to that plan. Some businesses don't refer back to those plans at all. And I find a lot can happen in a small period of time, let alone a long period of time with a small business. Your priorities might shift. You might bring on new products or take away key products, or key staff could come and go. So the best way to ensure that you're marketing effectively and reaching your goals is to go through that important process of strategic planning. And I would recommend that you do that annually. So each year, take the time to measure your progress and assess the specific steps that you're going to take in that coming year to make sure that you stay on track. That'll then tie in with your marketing strategy and being able to market in a cost-effective way. And so that's where you sort of see that pyramid. Have a look at the strategic planning elements within your business and tie it into that pyramid. So the marketing strategy, which you can see there, is the second tier up. That has to align with your overall business plans and goals, which are defined generally in a business plan. That then speaks directly to your marketing mix, which is your product, your price, your promotion, and your place, or your distribution. And then the marketing plan is simply the implementation of it all. So that's just really allocating some marketing resources, implementing the actual tactics, and obviously managing the budget alongside that. So what is marketing strategy? Well, it is the selection of a course of action that involves really specific customer groups, your target market, specific communication methods, distribution channels, and pricing structures. So it's a combination of those target markets and marketing mixes. Now, it allows you to find and use what really works and then to stay focused within your business. So have a think about your marketing strategy and your business plan and consider when you last reviewed it. Now, for most small businesses, developing a marketing strategy comes with a bit of overhead, or the thought of it does, or it's just too hard to do. But what we're going to go through today is some of the key components that you should consider with your annual planning or with the development of a marketing strategy. Now, keep in mind, if you do pay someone to develop a marketing strategy for you, that might come along with some advice that you have to have a significant marketing budget. But I do believe there's many things that you can do yourself, and that if your marketing is strategic, it doesn't have to be too expensive. So that's kind of the second part of what we'll go through. Now, if you are considering developing your own marketing strategy or business plan / strategy, just keep in mind that strategic planning is an extensive process. Now, for me to develop a strategic plan, it generally takes a number of weeks to obtain information, to analyze information, to go back and forth, and then ultimately develop a strategy around everything that you know, and that will be internal and external factors. And I consider a few key strategic research areas, which I've listed on your screen at the moment, and we'll run through some of those. Some of them are pretty straightforward and obvious, whereas some require a little bit more explanation. So I will expand in the next few minutes on some of those areas. But just to run through them, first of all, you've got a basic SWOT analysis. This is something that can be done by everyone in your team, and I would encourage the more people to get involved, the better. That's an analysis of your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities for your business, and threats to your business. Now, strengths and weaknesses are internal factors that have the ability to positively or negatively impact your business, and opportunities and threats are external factors. So keep that in mind. A basic template for a SWOT analysis can be given, like I said, to as many people in your team as you like, and get them to pop down their thoughts and collate that information. I think you can get some really interesting info from the members of your team or people that are involved in your business. The next one is a pest analysis or a pestle analysis. Now, that's another acronym that stands for political, economic, social, and technological factors. So those 4 factors are kind of the most common that a business would assess. But if it's relevant to your business, you might also like to look at environmental and legal factors that have the ability to positively or negatively impact your business. Now, with a pest or a pestle analysis, you don't always have the ability to change or do anything about some of those factors. For example, there could be a political factor that there's a change of government, and that could impact some funding that you've got. There's nothing you can do about that, but being aware that it has the ability to impact your business, and possibly looking at mitigation strategies around what would happen if you weren't to secure funding. And that's sort of a bit of an example of what you could potentially do with that information. But collating the information by way of a pest or a pestle analysis is their starting point. A competitor analysis is a great idea. I would be looking at some key factors around your own company and comparing them against your key competitors. Now, your competitors might be direct competitors, or indirect competitors. Direct competitors are businesses that would represent or be targeting the exact same market and have very similar products and services on offer, whereas an indirect competitor might be someone that has the ability to take a customer away from you, but the products or services or the business isn't directly related to yours. So a good example of that is always, if you think about your customer, would they buy your product and this other company's product, or would there always be a choice of one or the other? And we see that a little bit in travel and tourism, where people a direct competitor to Broome might be Bali, even though they're not the same destination, but people will choose one or the other. So that's a good example of, of a competitor that doesn't offer the exact same product or service. So think about your business, and if there's someone that is an indirect competitor, and make sure that you note them as well. Then a sales analysis. Now, this would just be analysing your own sales results in the past. And I like to go back a few years and have a look at how your sales have tracked, comparing month on month and comparing year on year, and identify areas where you might want to grow or might be able to grow. I would then look at your unique selling proposition and really define this. So what is it that you're pitching to clients? Your target market. Now, that's one area I absolutely will expand on, because that is really the core of everything that you need to know in terms of being strategic and doing so on a shoestring budget. So we'll expand on that, but you really have to define your target market. You would then really define your marketing mix, which is your 4 Ps, your product, place, your price, and your promotion or your distribution. You'd have a bit of financial analysis and budgeting in there as well. So thinking about what it's going to cost you to develop different, marketing tools or campaigns, how much you're going to spend on advertising, if you're going to spend anything at all. Now, a good question that I get quite often is, how do you budget for marketing? So what percentage of your revenue do you allocate to marketing? How do you know how to set a budget? Now, the textbooks will tell you that between 4 and 10% of your gross revenue should be spent on marketing, or the equivalent of that should be spent on marketing. And it says, that the experts say that 4% will maintain your position, whereas up to 10% will really grow your position and gain additional customers. But I find with small businesses, it's not always the case. So I would really have a look at what you've spent on marketing in the past. Now, if I was to come into your business, develop a strategy and go, all right, there's your strategy. Now you have to spend $1 million on marketing, and I can guarantee you're going to quadruple your business. That's, sounds fantastic, but it's not always realistic. So always make your budget realistic to what you can afford, and tie that into a cash flow, and have a look at what your cash flow is doing. When will you actually have the cash to spend on marketing, including expenses associated with marketing, which might be a development of a website, for example, and then you've got actual click budget or advertising spend to consider too. So the budgeting is really important, to be realistic and match your budget to your resources. Now, some of those strategy areas are straightforward. As I said, some do need a little bit more information. So we're going to expand on your target market and the marketing mixes, and the marketing mix as well, starting with target market. Now, I do firmly believe that this is the most important component of marketing, and that is to truly know your target market. Now, a target market is a market segment that has been selected by your business for marketing attention. And that's really important to note, because this is not who you get through your doors. This is someone at a market or a segment that you have selected. So you're saying that this is who I believe is going to purchase my product and is going to be the most reasonably priced to actually advertise to. Therefore, this is sort of who I want through my doors. So you basically will research who your target market is, or who it could be. Through that research, you might find that there are some target segments that no one's reaching or no one's communicating to. There might be some segments that you think are good markets, but you find that they're already being served by your competitors, or they're saturated. Your actual audience is saturated with options, so they'll be a lot more difficult to get to. Sometimes there's a target market that your competitor has them, but they're not doing a very good job at looking after them. So there's an opportunity as well. But essentially, market segmentation is dividing your customers into groups or market segments with common characteristics. And we've just had a really good question come through. What happens if you have multiple target markets? That's very, very normal. And very common to have multiple target markets. But the really important thing is to know their place in terms of, do you have multiple segments because some will purchase at different times? For example, you might have a seasonal business. So you might have a market that buys your product or service in winter, which differs to that in summer, and therefore, that's a differentiation. Or you might have products or services that are tailored to different markets, and that's absolutely fine. The messaging is going to be tailored to the target audience about the product that's relevant to them at the time that they're going to purchase it, and the place that they're consuming media. So that's in saying that, it's absolutely fine to have multiple target markets. Another question is, what does the target market research involve? Is it just talking to potential? Target market research should be comprehensive, and yes, talking to potential customers is a great idea, but I would also be looking at a number of factors. Now, depending on your industry and your business, you might have industry bodies that have research documents about your industry and your consumers. So I would look to any industry research that has been conducted. I would look at areas like the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Have a look at what sort of information they have that could be relevant to you. I would look at any other research documents that have been produced that may incorporate information that you might be able to use, or pieces of information that you might be able to use. I would also then be looking at your own information. So what do you know about customers that have come through your business already? What sort of purchasing behaviors have you seen? What sort of patterns? Do you have your own database? And can you sort of mine that information for I guess, info that can help you to advertise to them in the future? It's not saying that the market that you've had in the past is the perfect market for you, but it could be, and there could be vital information in there. So you really have to have a look at internal and external information, and a combination of everything. The key thing about data and research is that the research is there, and I can guarantee you there's a lot of research and for a range of different markets and businesses. But it's a matter of interpreting that information. So first of all, you have to obtain the info, then you've got to interpret it and take what's relevant to you. Now, we've just had another question. I target parents, but also grandparents, aunties, uncles could come under that because they may know someone who wants to attend my classes. Okay, so that's an interesting one. And that's quite a common sort of statement that I hear in small businesses, is that you don't want to miss out on any opportunity. So if it's an uncle that might be able to refer someone, you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. But the key thing about target markets is identifying who the core market is, or the bulk of your market. Now, this target, let's say it is a parent that you're talking to. So your advertising will talk to that parent. You'll narrow them down to, is it the mother or the father that are the decision maker? What sort of age bracket are they in? So demographic, geographic, and psychographic information. So behaviors you want to know, income brackets, you want to know the typical scenario, even to go as far as to develop an avatar that is named so you can picture your exact target market. You will then place advertising where that individual consumes media. Now, that could be a magazine, it could be on social media, it could be, there's online, offline, and you can be extremely targeted online by way of geographic, demographic information, that kind of thing. If an auntie or an uncle happens to see that advertising and does refer someone, that's fantastic. That becomes a bonus, but you're not going to place an ad in, let's say a magazine that an auntie or uncle might read in the hopes that they will see it and then refer someone. So you always have to be true to your target market and really focusing your advertising and placing it exactly where that market will be consuming media. There will always be other people that will filter through, and you would never say no to those customers, but it's all about who you're actually communicating to or directly communicating to. So hopefully that answers your question. Now, as you're going through this research process, you'll be having a look at market segments and making sure they're viable. So to be viable, the individuals or businesses, if you're a B2B organization, should be homogenous. So they should be grouped because of their characteristics and all the same. They have to differ from the general population and be different to other market segments. So you'll have different groups. So you might have 2 or 3, like I said. The market segment should be large enough to be financially viable as well. So you might identify a market segment and go, all right, yeah, we get these are kind of niche people that come through our doors, but you can't justify an actual advertising campaign because they just don't generate enough revenue. So that's fine. They can still be a market segment, but not a target market for you, if that makes sense. And generally speaking, the last criteria is that they have to be reachable through some type of media or marketing communications method. So there are some markets that are a little bit more difficult to reach. Now, in the case that you have, a child is your target audience, the target market might be the parent. So consider that. Always look at who the decision maker is. Even that comment about you target parents, which parent is it? Who is the key decision maker? So it might be parents together that utilize the product or service, but who is the actual decision maker? And that is then your target. Now, consumer markets can be segmented or divided along a number of different dimensions. Now, I've mentioned some of them. The most common is demographics because it's the easiest, but I would be looking at psychographics, generations, perhaps geographic, benefits and usage. So everything you know about that customer. Now, without a clear image of your target market, and I see this all the time, as a small business, you try to reach almost everyone and you end up appealing to nobody because you're being too broad in your communications method and where you're placing your advertising. So I would say going back to a target market, you should be able to visualize that person, and going down the path of an avatar, name them exactly who they are, what age bracket they are, what everything that you know about them, and you should be able to create a digital persona around who that person is. Then we're going to look at marketing mix. So once you know all of that information about your target market, the marketing mix becomes pretty straightforward. Now, the marketing mix is the controllable factors that have been chosen by you as an organization or as a small business to satisfy the needs of this target customer. Now, the 4 controllable factors are product, price, place, and promotion. There is an extension on that if it's relevant to your business to create 7 Ps if you include people, processes, and physical environment. So it depends on the nature of your business, but we're just going to look at the 4 Ps today. Products. First of all, what is your product range, and does your product range actually appeal to your target market, or do you need to make any changes? Now, I've developed a number of marketing strategies, and when I get to this point of once you've identified the target market, it's very, very common to have to adjust your product to better suit the changing needs of or the new target market that you've identified. Something that's really important, and this kind of goes back to customer service, is you can never expect your customers to change their needs and wants to suit your product or service. Customers will continually evolve, and you have to continually evolve your product or service to meet those changing needs as well. So have a look at that. Look at your product range. Does the range of products that you or services that you offer complement each other? And does it still suit the individuals that you've targeted? So have a look at that. Then you've got price. Now, pricing, does your pricing still suit your target market based on everything that you now know about them? You've done a competitor analysis, so you'll have a look at how it compares to your competitors. I would have a look at how each price in your product range looks alongside each other. One thing you don't want to do is confuse consumers by having 3 similar products and the prices are also similar. So as a consumer, I come along and go, oh, I just don't know which one to buy. I can't see what the differences are in these products, or there's not enough of a difference for me to make a decision that this is the one I want. So have a bit of a separation, and sometimes price and value is that separation. Now, also considering your pricing, or making sure that your pricing allows for enough profit. That's hugely important. Many small businesses that I begin to work with don't actually know which of their products or services are most or least profitable. So that's a really key consideration, is making sure that you've crunched the numbers to know what it costs you to deliver a particular service or to develop a particular product, and how much you're making from it. The place or your distribution is important. Now, this is where your buyers will look for your product or service. Is it going to be online? Are you selling to consumers direct, or are you selling to businesses? Are you a wholesale, or are you wholesaling your products, I should say? Thinking about how you can access the right distribution channels. Now, again, if you wholesale your products, you'll have to go back to pricing and make sure that you've incorporated that into your pricing. So you might have a recommended retail price, and then you might have a wholesale price. And if your distribution strategy is largely to wholesale your product, then you're going to have to go again and crunch the numbers and make sure that all works. Then you've got your promotion. Now, what is your strategy around promoting your product or service? Where are you going to market it? Now, if you're appealing to consumers directly, you are going to have to look at what sort of media or advertising are they consuming. So where are they consuming media? Is it online? Is it offline? What sort of outlets are going to be most suitable to them? If you are appealing to, or if you're wholesaling your products or services, again, you're going to have to look, is it networking that you need to do? Is it still online advertising, but then who are you advertising to? So in any case, whether it's a B2B or a B2C situation, you have to know your target audience very well to be able to determine exactly how and where you're going to promote your product or service. Now, if you know all of that information, then it allows you to place your product, the right product for the right price, in the right place from a media perspective as to exactly where your target customers are consuming media, and therefore you shouldn't be wasting any marketing money on customer or advertising to customers that don't represent your core target market. And that's really the key thing about strategically planning. And that was an absolute fly through in the development of a strategy. That really does take time and patience while you research and analyze and filter through all of this data that you're obtaining. We could do a full day session on strategy, but the key point here is really to understand that you can be extremely targeted. You can spend your funds, particularly if your funds are limited, very, very well with a solid strategy. So I would certainly encourage you to go through, spend the time and develop a strategy and spend the time doing that research. But the key reasons that you should strategically plan are, first of all, it pinpoints the target markets that you're going to serve. It determines your customers' needs and wants through market research, which allows you to develop the right products, services, and I guess develop the right prices for those customers. You can analyze your competitive advantage and then build a strong marketing strategy around what makes your business differ or what makes your business stand out from the rest. And then you create that marketing mix that meets the needs of your customers as well. So a few key considerations there are that your strategic planning has to match your resources and your own individual capabilities for long-term growth. You have to factor in all components to get a big picture as well. So don't just look at internal research and not look at external research. Don't just look at your competitors without analysing your target market. So all of it is absolutely crucial. I have touched on it, but I really do believe that strategic planning is an integrated activity. I think you should involve as many areas of your business as possible. And if it's something as simple as giving some staff a SWOT analysis to complete, or getting some feedback from them by way of, an annual sort of planning day, I would absolutely encourage that, because I think some of the information that perhaps your frontline staff might get, that you running the business sort of behind the scenes might not see, or vice versa, I think it's really, really important. But an annual day where everybody gets the opportunity to provide a bit of feedback can be good, or just simply handing out some templates for people to complete in their own time to give you a bit of a few ideas and generate a bit of feedback. So that's the most important element in marketing on a shoestring budget, is knowing exactly who you're talking to, what products they want, where they consume media, which is where you should advertise, and then you're not going to be wasting any marketing money at all. So it sounds pretty straightforward, but takes a little bit of time and effort. We are now going to look at some specific low-cost marketing activities. Now, when we run through these, do keep in mind it's going to be quick. We've only got 30 minutes left and there's a lot to get through. A lot of what I'm going through is just, I guess, a bit of a heads up on this is something you could do, this is something I'd recommend. But keep in mind, we do have a range of other workshops and webinars that will expand on almost everything that I go through. So absolutely keep that in mind. The idea of today is to not go away with an in-depth understanding of each of these components, but that broad understanding and knowing that you can seek more information. Okay, now let's imagine you've done the research, you know your specific target audience, you're targeting your advertising towards that specific audience and where they consume media. I believe there are some essential sort of low-cost marketing activities. Now, first of all, that is your online setup. I would do a full audit and make sure that your online setup is solid. So this is your website, your SEO, remarketing at a minimum. So we're going to go through some of that. I would also seek referrals and reviews online, but also make sure that you're listening to those reviews, that you're setting up alerts and you're responding to them. They're absolutely crucial. It's great for word of mouth in an online space, but it's also really good for obtaining information from your clients. Now, you can get reviews on Google, you can get them on Facebook, or there's industry specific. There's Urban Spoon, there's TripAdvisor, there's Yelp. There's a number of different sites that will allow your customers to leave reviews as well. So have a look at your industry and know what your review sites are and get involved in that. I would personalize all marketing. Now, whether this is email or social media, you need to talk directly to your audience. You need to talk to them about relevant events at relevant times of year. And things that are of interest to them, because you know everything about them based on analysing your target market. If you can obtain an email database, you can talk more specifically to those people based on what products or services they've purchased from you in the past, and you can then tailor offers to them. I would say also look at new customer offers. Once you've got a customer in, they cost very little to keep, subject to you providing them with amazing customer service. So do some kind of promotion to get the customers in, then stay in touch with those clients, keep them in the cycle of your business. So keep them reviewing you, communicate with those reviews, get them to follow you on social media, provide them personalized marketing in the future. Now, a really interesting stat is that, and it really depends on your industry, but broadly speaking, it costs about 8 times more to attract a new customer than it does to retain an existing. So the idea behind creating new customer offers is to try and get them in easily, but once they're in, knowing ways to keep them. And that really lies largely with customer service. Your unique value or your unique selling proposition or your value proposition needs to be nailed, and you have to develop content that highlights it and story tells to your clients about what it is that makes you truly unique. Now, once you've identified what it is that you offer that is unique, that is superior to your competitors, and that your customers want, the idea about creating content around that is in your social media, in your email newsletters, if you do them, on your website, in your new customer offers. Always be talking about and story tell about why you are so fantastic at what you do and why you are truly unique. Now, you can do that by way of tips and hints and information. It doesn't always have to be promotion, but I would really integrate that into all communications that you have with your audience. PR is absolutely crucial. You can be your own PR advocate. We actually have a media and PR webinar that talks about how you can get free publicity and engage with the media as a small business. It's certainly not out of reach. And it can represent some amazing coverage to your target audience. Again, it has to be planned, it has to be strategic. But yeah, you can certainly get some free publicity. So I would look at that. Once you have developed your unique selling proposition, and as a small business, a lot of the time it comes down to the individuals that are behind the story behind the brand. It then becomes quite an easy sell from a PR perspective to engage with the media and give them something that is newsworthy. Sponsorship opportunities can be great. I would look at sponsoring events, but make sure that if you are sponsoring anything, the organisation that you're sponsoring has the exact same target market as you. So, for example, you might have the local footy club come to you and say, can you sponsor our awards, our gala dinner? Have a look at who's going to be sitting in that audience, who's going to see your logo on screen, who's going to see your name and your information in their book on the table. If it is your target audience, then it could represent a fantastic opportunity. So really seek out these sponsorship opportunities as opposed to just deciding on them when you're approached. Now, as a small business owner myself, I know that there's a lot of charities and a lot of donation requests and that kind of thing. I would allow yourself a bit of a budget. Just say, look, we only commit to 5 of these per year, and then pick out the 5 that represent a really good marketing opportunity for you because the target market perfectly matches yours. I would also not forget about grassroots marketing, back to basics, signs, handouts, billboards on your own venue, on your car, that kind of thing. And always consider traditional marketing. So a lot of what we're going to talk about next is really online marketing, but I would consider traditional marketing. Have a look. What is the opportunity? How much is it going to cost? So does it fit your budget? Does it talk directly to your target audience? Does it represent value for you? And if you can say yes to that, then it could be a good opportunity. But now we're going to further explore some of the key online marketing tactics and how best to market your business online, because every business, no matter your industry, should be online. And you can really maximize your online presence to get new business, but also to stay in contact with existing customers as well. And you can capitalize on every marketing dollar spent. So online advertising can be extremely targeted. Of course, it's very trackable. You can track absolutely everything that happens. So you take the guesswork out of as to whether what you're doing is producing the right results or not. So first of all, the core of your online marketing is your website. Keep in mind, it's only part of your strategy. Potential customers need to be able to find that site, and you also need to actively engage with current and future customers online. So we'll talk more about being found online shortly, but your website itself is a place where customers can go to find out about your products. They can make purchases. So even if you've got a physical, a bricks and mortar premises, you might be closed, or, you know, some people don't, you don't have a physical premises, they are service-based, so you service certain areas. Your website is really that place where people can find you. So I would think about your website as your 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, your number one salesperson. Considering that, is your website doing your business justice? Is it selling your product or service as it should? So there are some key web design elements to consider. First of all, the imagery. You should have large hero images that really highlight and tell the story of your product. And in those images, you should feature people using your product or service, and those people should be representative of your target market. That's really important. You don't want to go onto a website. Let's say, you know, your website's targeted at parents, like the example of the question that we had earlier. But when I get onto the website, it's all young, single, backpacker sort of looking people that are utilizing the product or service. As a parent, I would immediately go, oh, I don't know if I'm in the right place. I'm not sure if this product or service is for me. So use the people in your images to help tell that story. Navigation needs to be easy. Make sure that you test it with friends and family and get them to try and buy something from your site, and make sure they can sort of move through the various pages without any issues. Look out for any bottlenecks in that process. There should be strong calls to action, such as you know, a shop now, a buy now, contact us, book now. Those kind of buttons should appear, and they should be on pretty much every page, so that no matter at what point of research your customer is at, they can convert there and then. They don't have to backtrack and go, oh, where's the page where I buy something? It should be easily able to be done at any stage of their research. Your website should be fully responsive or mobile friendly. Now that is an example, is what you see on your screen, that your website should adapt no matter what size device they appear on, whether it's desktop, tablet or mobile. The menu structure may change and the layout may adapt slightly. But you certainly don't want to have a desktop sort of site that's trying to be shown on a mobile, where people have to zoom in to try and see different things or scroll over to see the other side of the page. So that's really important for Google and from an SEO perspective, which we'll talk about, but also really important from a customer perspective. Content is really important. There should be plenty of content. Customers should be able to get enough information about your business. And if you're finding that customers are continually calling to ask a particular question, that's a really good indication that it should be on your website to answer that question. And the content should really flow. Now, this content will really help with how you rank. So from an SEO perspective, Google needs content, Google and other search engines need content on the website to understand what the website's about. So imagery is really important to sell your product, but content is kind of fundamentally important to the success of your results on Google, but also for your customer. Just had a question with regards to content. Is it more user-friendly to use bullet points or easy on the eye or small paragraphs explaining businesses and services? Yes, I do think that you should break up the information. Now, we will talk about heading tags shortly, because this is really an SEO factor where you use headings to sort of break up content. But yeah, I do think that you have to make this content digestible as well. You don't want too many bullet points, because it comes a little bit impersonal, and it's just, you know, info, whereas in sentences you can tell a little bit more of a story, but you don't just want paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs, because nobody's going to read the information. So breaking your information up with headings, with bullet points, with sentences, with images, I think makes it a lot more digestible for the consumer. Now, somebody else has asked, they're saying that they've conducted due diligence to launch a website. It can be an expensive exercise. A web designer suggested at present just to start with a landing page. Now, a landing page being just a single page for your website gives you a limited ability to provide content for search engines like Google or for the consumer. But it's better than nothing. So if you're going to be if it's going to take you 6 months to develop a website, then absolutely get something up that has some content on it where people can at least start to engage with you and you can start to rank from a Google perspective. Or think of ways that you can streamline the process of getting your website live so that it doesn't take so long. Now there's a lot of templates up there, so you might be building an amazing sort of mega site and that's going to take you 6 months, but you might be able to get on WordPress, get a quick template, develop some pages that they will start ranking and will start helping with your SEO and allowing your customers to comfortably interact with you and buy your products or services. So that might be a strategy as well, a two-phased approach. But I do think you have to have something. So a landing page at a bare minimum is great. But the more pages, now we'll talk about this when we get to SEO, but the more pages, the more content you have, the more information Google has to index, essentially. So hopefully that answers that question. But just to expand more on SEO, which is sort of what we're delving into there, SEO stands for search engine optimizations, and in very simple terms, it's the process of improving your site to increase its visibility for relevant searches. Now, a key thing about SEO is that you've got to be, your website has to be ranking where people are actually searching or for terms people are actually searching. So you might say, okay, I'm a cafe in Fremantle, for example, and I want to rank well for cafe Fremantle, but consumers aren't looking for cafe in Fremantle. They're looking for different search terms like restaurant Fremantle. You have to understand where the demand is. A lot of SEO people or a lot of web developers will say, yeah, I can do your SEO as well, but it has to start with keyword research. So that's my recommendation. We actually have an entire webinar on keyword research. We also have webinars on SEO and a lot around the SEO space, but keyword research is something I'm very passionate about. You should be doing it before you do any search engine optimization or make any changes to your website or launch a new website. You have to know what people are actually searching to get to your site. And there's a number of tools that you can use to prove search volumes. But essentially, I would do a bit of a brainstorm and go, I think people would be searching, these sort of terms to get to my website. We would use certain tools like the Google Keyword Planner tool to actually prove how many searches there are for those specific terms per month. The next step is for you to then tailor your content and the SEO in and around your site to the keywords that represent the best volumes, essentially, and are most relevant to your business, so that you can improve your rankings for those key search terms on key search engines like Google. Now, keep in mind that SEO is a culmination of hundreds of different tactical efforts. It's changing and evolving, so things that resulted in top rankings in the past may not be as significant. So it is really important to continuously fine-tune your SEO. It does take time. What you do today, you may not see results for a few weeks or a month. And because it's a continually changing landscape, you have to be constantly aware of changes in algorithms and then perhaps, modify your SEO as and when is needed. So I would recommend following a lot of the expert pages, get newsletters, really start to delve into this world of SEO, even if you have someone that manages your SEO. Now, I personally choose to pay someone to do SEO work on my websites, but I still have a good enough understanding so that I am clear on what they're doing. And that's kind of the key thing. You may not, there's a lot that you can do yourself, but you may decide to outsource some of that as well, but you have to have a good understanding of what's going on. Now, SEO incorporates on-page and off-page optimization techniques. So first of all, we'll go through some of the key on-page SEO techniques. Now, this is everything on your site that affects your ranking. So readable URLs, so, your website.com.au/about us, as opposed to / one page 1, 2, 3, 4. So don't have any codes, make sure that it's actually written words. Internal links, so page-to-page linking relevant content. So on your homepage, you might talk about that you've got products A, B, and C. When you talk about product A, an automatic link is present, or a hyperlink is present to the page where product A information is located. So as and when you talk about things, look for internal linking opportunities. Just keep in mind that Google's going to rank you better for things that are better for the customer. So if it's easy for me as a consumer to read your homepage, you're telling me about the product, I can just hover over it, click it, go straight there. It's going to be a lot smoother transition than me then going up to the menu, looking for product A, then clicking it, then going to the page. So good for the consumer, then it will be good for Google naturally. 301 redirects are really important. If you take down a page, don't let people go to an error page saying that this page no longer exists. Always redirect them to a new location. Your page load time is really important, making sure that you always keep an eye on speed. Now, image sizes can impact that, as can unused code that sits behind the scenes. Make sure that you test that regularly. Now, Google have a page speed test that you can do. It's under the Google developer tools. So have a look at that and run that, and it will give you a comprehensive sort of report on how your website is loading and how the speed is going and if there's anything that needs to be fixed. Now, there's also some others, your title tags, meta descriptions, alt tags, and heading tags. I'm going to expand a bit more on them because they are a little bit more in depth or getting a bit more technical. Starting with title tags. Now, title tags is what you see here in the red square. Now, each of the pages in your website should have its own unique title tag. Now, that'll include the main keywords for the page. So it's not the headline that's on your actual page, not the heading. It's only visible in code view as a tag, a title tag. But Google and other search engines use it to display on the main title, I should say, of their search results. So what you can see there. It should only be 60 characters. That's enough to display a good title without it getting cut off. Don't use stop words like the, and, is, etc., because it's kind of just wasting characters for things that aren't going to help you at all. The preferred format is to put your primary keywords first and then subsequent keywords. It is a critical factor for Google web bots. Their title tags can heavily influence how your SEO, but they can also really influence users. The more appealing that page title is, the more likely it is to be clicked. So you have to make sure that it makes sense, because the ultimate goal is to get people to click through to your website. Then you've got meta descriptions. Now, the meta description is not visible in any part of your site except, again, in the HTML code. Most content management systems will have SEO plugins or SEO apps and that kind of thing where you can just enter your title tags and meta descriptions. This is the description that's found under your title and search results. So what you can see, again, in the red square. It doesn't actually affect your ranking in search engines, but it's like a mini ad for your web page, and it's free. So if it's well written, the idea is that it would encourage people to click through to your website, which boosts your traffic and hopefully converts to customers. It's only 160 characters, so use that space. Make sure your text doesn't get cut off. Definitely don't use the same meta description on every page of your website. So each page of your website is unique, and therefore the meta description for each page of your website should also be unique. Then you've got alt tags and heading tags. So alt tags on the left, they're used for images. So they're HTML tags that you can use to describe what an image is. Search engines like Google can't see an image. So without this description, they've got no idea what it is or if it's relevant, and it won't help with the SEO of your particular page if you don't assign some words to it. Also, if the Google or other search engine bots can find your image because it's correctly labeled, it might appear in an images search as well. I would always say include local keywords or the title of the page with the keywords that you're trying to rank for, as well as what the image is as a HTML, as an alt tag, sorry. Then you've got heading tags on the right-hand side. So heading tags are very important for SEO, but they're also important for the reader or your audience because they help to determine what the content is on your page and how important it is. So think about a web page that you've seen. The biggest heading, which would be an H1, should be what the entire page is about. And then any smaller heading would be tagged in the back end as an H2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And that should be what that particular section is about. So web as an audience or a web reader, I would glance over a page and my eyes would be drawn to the specific headings or the topics. Search engines will use those heading tags as indicators of context, and then they place different weights, with an H1 being the most important, and then the least important as it goes down. So basically that is to determine what's on the page and how does it relate to what the user is searching for. So those H tags are really important. Then you've got off-page SEO or off-site SEO. So these are actions that are taken outside of your own website to impact your rankings within search engine results pages. So off-page optimization should be the majority of your SEO strategy. The idea is to build the credibility of your website. You want your website to rank above others that have similar messages. So to achieve that, you have to build your website's authority. You can do that through link building. Now, link building is the process of basically getting external links to link to a page on your website. It can be complicated. It can be time consuming. Not all links are created equal, so they're not all as important as each other. If you've got a link from a more authoritative website, it's going to make a greater impact on your search engine results page than a link from a newly built or a low quality website. So Google bots will count all the links coming into your website. They will give more weight to quality links and rank you accordingly. So if your website had 100 poor quality links and your competitor had 15 good quality links, for example, the chances are that your competitor is going to rank higher than you. Keep in mind, Google's become very good at spotting a scam when it comes to link building. So it should be a good quality link. And I think, a good quality link ideally, it will come from a trusted and a reputable site or a site that's related to your type of business. But generally speaking, they're difficult to come by. So you need some kind of human intervention to implement. So things like a membership, if you work with any industry organizations, or if you have any business partners or partner with any other businesses, I should say, you might have reciprocal links on web pages. Normally the content or the link should be on a page that has content related to the content that it's being linked to, and it should be likely to be clicked by the reader. So you can get backlinks firstly by earning them. So if you have a blog or anything like that and you're creating amazing content, you might find that people organically sort of want to share it. And therefore they're sort of putting links from their web pages or their socials back to your content. So that could be one way. You can build backlinks through your networking and relationship building. I would recommend a bit of a plan of action. I would look at making contact with other website owners and actually requesting links to your website or to your content. You might even write guest posts for other websites and get links back to your site in that way. I would also systematically check for unlinked mentions of your business or your brand on other websites, or check for any broken links, and then request a working link to be added. Now, Google Alerts are great for this. You can set up an alert in Google. So anytime your business name is mentioned online, you'll get an alert from Google by way of an email. I would have a scan through that and look, is there an opportunity for a link there? Sometimes you might have someone experience your product or service and not tell you about it. So they could be a blogger, for example. They could not necessarily be a blogger, but just have a blog, write information about you, but not create a link. And I had a good example of this the other day, where someone, they actually emailed me and said, I did, you experienced your product the other day. I've written a little bit about it on my blog, check it out. And I was like, this is fantastic. Would you mind actually linking back to our website? So that's a good link where you just have to ask for it. So keep that in mind. You can create backlinks yourself, add your website to business directories or other niche websites that are relevant to your business. A lot of the time you don't have to pay for an introductory sort of listing on a business directory, think Yellow Pages and Yelp and True Local and those kind of sites. They can be really valuable. But also have a look at your competitors. Google your competitors and see what websites they come up for. Now, this can be really interesting info, seeing what they come up for, but I would have a look and pursue the same opportunity if it's relevant to your business as well. There's also non-link related off-page or off-site SEO. Obviously, earning backlinks from external websites is the most commonly practiced form of SEO, and this kind of represents the bulk of your SEO strategy. But there may be other forms of off-page SEO, like your social media marketing, guest blogging, any unlinked brand mentions. But like I said, always ask for the link wherever you can, or working with influencers. This can be great non-link related off-site SEO, or could be great for off-site SEO. Now, SEO is ranking organically when people search, but there's also SEM, which is search engine marketing, where you set up advertising and you pay per click. We are not going to get into that today because it is a fairly extensive topic on its own, but I am going to just tell you about another form of pay-per-click advertising, or Google AdWords, which is remarketing. Now, done correctly, remarketing can be great for increasing brand awareness and influencing conversions, and it can be very low cost. The concept is very simple. You're reinforcing your brand to people who have already visited your website. So as you can see on the diagram on your website, you've got a prospect, somehow they get to your website. So it could be that they see your car drive past, that they've gone past your store, they've seen you on social media, however they've found you, they've gone to your website. Once they're there, they're tracked. They then leave your site without transacting for whatever reason. They could have been interrupted. They could be looking at your competitors. They could have just decided to end their search or not quite ready to purchase yet. Your ads then appear as banners or pop-ups on other sites that they browse. You only pay when they actually click that ad and they get back to your website. So it's a pretty good chance that at that point that you're paying, they're pretty serious about either transacting or continuing their search. So it can be really cost effective in that sense. There's a very good chance that you've been the recipient of remarketing in the past. You may have or may not have noticed it, but you set the rules around how frequently your ad appears, how many days you're going to track this person for and show your ads for. So you set all the rules around that. The other form of remarketing or retargeting lies within the Facebook space, Facebook and Instagram, where you can actually put some tracking or some code on your website. Once people hit your website, you can advertise to them back in the social media space, whether or not they've followed you on social in the past, but you've got the web here and then advertise to them in Facebook. So keep that in mind as well. I would recommend both forms of remarketing. As you know, if you're not spending any other money on pay-per-click advertising, I would certainly look at those options. Now, the controlling and the measurement side of things is a really critical part of marketing effectively and doing so on a limited budget. You have to define how you're going to measure something before you launch any advertising. But when you do start to control and measure, I would absolutely evaluate all marketing activities. You've defined the measurement before you've implemented the activity. The activity is being conducted, and then you're going to look at how it went by comparing your goals and the results and identifying if there's any deviations and what the causes of deviations were. You might need to formulate new plans and actions at this point if your goals and results didn't match. You might need to correct problems. Or you might need to exploit opportunities. So, have a look at that. Exploiting opportunities could be as simple as, increasing budgets and that sort of thing. But just make sure that you stay disciplined and follow your price and quantity objectives. Have a look if conditions are changing. So there could be things that have forced a bit of a change. So that could be, you could be subject to weather and there's terrible weather. Therefore, you might want to stop your ads and restart them again when the weather improves, or, world events could mean that you can't sell your product or service in certain areas. So always have a look at external conditions as well. And keep in mind that the best marketing plan is one that is reviewed often. Learn your lessons from one year and then carry them over to the next, or period to period even. In terms of what you should measure, I would look at your sales and leads. So have a look at your total sales, have a look at specific products and services, how much it's costing you to acquire a lead or a customer. And then how many of those leads you're actually converting into purchases. Your web stats, I'd look at unique users per month. I'd have a look at sessions, which is how many times they've come back on to your website, average page views. I'd set up goals and conversions and also look at referral traffic. So what websites are you getting actual hits to your website from? And then look at your social media stats. The number one statistic for socials is really engagement per post. So it doesn't matter if you're doing 100 posts a month or if you're doing 4, it's really engagement that you want to look for. You want to make sure that you are getting that engagement. So that's an absolute fly through, and that wraps up our session on strategic marketing on a shoestring budget. Thank you so much for joining me today. Like I said, it is an absolute fly through, but everything we spoke about in the second part of that webinar will be, you have more information that you can obtain through our other webinars, workshops, and through a digital solutions advisor. So do keep in mind you can get one-on-one business mentorship through the Commonwealth Government program. Information's on the screen now. You get up to 3 one-on-one sessions for just $44, and then access to all of our webinars and workshops as well. There is a little bit of eligibility around that. You have to be in WA, Queensland or NT, operating for profit, and employ fewer than 20 full-time staff. So thank you for all of your messages. I do appreciate the thanks. I'll stay on now. So if you do have any questions whatsoever, please let me know. Pop them in there and I'll be sure to answer them. But otherwise, good luck with your marketing, and please do reach out for more information on anything that we've discussed today.